Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 194. It's week 19 of 2025, and I'm Alexander Leitner. And a very special welcome to you wherever you find yourself in the world, if it's in Johannesburg or Pretoria, in South Africa, or on some other continent. Well, welcome to you if you're listening online or on air. And of course, a very special welcome to those who are listening for the very first time. Give us a wave, give us a smile, and I'm happy to report that all is chilly but well in Sandton land. I'd love to hear from you wherever you are, so do get in touch. You can send through your questions, your comments, or your feedback using the email address editor@sandtontimes.co.za, connecting on social media @Sandton Times, and also visiting the website sandtontimes.co.za. And save this WhatsApp number, 084 Sandton, that's 084 726 3866, that's 084 726 3866, and feel free to send through your voice notes, your text messages, or whatever else is on your mind, and that's our exclusive Sandton Times Hour WhatsApp line. If you're not part of the podcast community, but you'd like to subscribe, well, make sure you find the Sandton Times Hour on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, AfroPods, Podcast Party, and pretty much every other leading digital audio platform on the planet. And be sure to like and share that with your friends. It's been a week sprinkled with public holidays, but I hope you've been making the most of it. And thanks again for taking the time and listening in. It doesn't go unnoticed. Oh, talking about unnoticed. Vincenzo, huge apologies. Welcome behind the mixing desk. Sorry, I think my public holiday brain is settling in a bit too much. So best we get back to work and make sure that it doesn't get completely rusty. One thing that's super exciting, it's our 3-year radio anniversary for the Sandton Times Hour this month. I was just looking at the calendar just before we got going, and I realized that, my goodness, we started the show in 2022 on radio. So it had been going since 2020 during lockdown as a digital audio show on the web, as a podcast. And then in 2022, it got picked up by a local radio station, and we've been on air ever since. So it's 3 years. Congratulations. Long may it last. Fingers crossed. So, housekeeping aside, who are we talking to this week? In a bit, I'll be finding out a bit more about one of Sandton's most established 5-star hotels, which has undergone a bit of a nip and a tuck, so stick around for this. Then, if you were mesmerized or you couldn't stand the trash TV of the 90s and 2000s, well, our regular entertainment check-in this week might be one for you. Stay listening. And finally, imagine signing up for a fine dining dinner and knowing little to nothing about it before you go. Well, it's an award-winning secret that'll be revealed at the end of this hour. All this and more coming up shortly.
Show some love.
subscribe, share,
Leave a review and rating for the Sandton Times Hour
on your favorite podcast app now.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So Sandton continues to evolve as a leading hub for business and leisure in Africa. Its iconic hotels are stepping up to meet the moment. And at the heart of Sandton's shimmering skyline is the Sandton Sun and Towers. Has long been a symbol of hospitality and excellence in the area. And following a sweeping refurbishment across its twin properties, the hotel is now redefining luxury, comfort, and South African design. And at the helm is Robert Jasper. He's the general manager of Sandton Sun and Towers, who brings a bit of insight into what it takes to stay ahead in a competitive hospitality landscape. And Rob, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, Rob, maybe you can briefly take us a bit down memory lane and give us a bit of history about the property. I remember it being an intercontinental at some stage.
That's quite right. I'll take you back a bit further. So the Sandton Sun part of the hotel was opened in 1984, and the Sandton Towers was built and opened in 1993. Originally, they were both run as one property, being the Sandton Sun and Towers Intercontinental. And then a decision was made to split them, to have a standalone Sandton Sun and the Intercontinental Towers. And that ran like that until the hotel was closed during the COVID period. We reopened the Sandton Sun part first, and then eventually reopened Towers again in the beginning of August 2022. Decision being made to actually open it as the Sandton Sun and Towers and get away from the Intercontinental brand. We're a proudly South African brand, and we thought there was enough strength there for the hotel to operate on its own. So since then, since the beginning of 2022, we've been operating as one hotel, being the Sandton Towers.
Absolutely. Well, Sandton Sun has built up a very impressive brand equity in South Africa, and you're totally right. Why shouldn't a local brand be carrying its own weight? Now, this refurbishment, what is the guiding vision behind this refresh of the hotel?
So the hotel's got quite classic design already in both properties, but specifically the towers are both atrium hotels. You don't find that very often. So you can actually see from the bottom of the lobby all the way up to the rooms. Some great architecture in there. So the idea was to refresh the hotel, to make it modern, but also to keep it contemporary and classic. So we weren't going to go for something that was extremely fashionable that wouldn't last. The rooms have come out spectacularly. So they're really elegant, modern, but still with a very classic feel.
And did this also include sort of, like to call it a hard refurbishment? I mean, were the elevators replaced? Were any major structural things done, or was this purely from a
No, we did some work to the air handling units and chillers in the property, as well as, because of the age of the property, we replaced the entire irrigation system. So all those pipes had to be replaced because that comes at the end of their life. But the elevators were done a little while ago. There is a gym that's in the hotel that feeds both sides. So the Sandton Towers property, that was done probably about 2 years ago. So that's also very modern. So we did do the public areas in the towers part. There used to be a big water feature. We've taken that away, made more seating for the restaurant, as well as we've actually included in the property Anton Smith, who's quite a famous South African sculptor. He's had work all over in galleries all over the world, and he's now put a centerpiece statue into the lobby of the hotel, which is called Four Winds, a statue of four ladies. Magnificent. So I would encourage you to have a look at it if you haven't already. Really nice piece of art.
That sounds fantastic. Now, you've also added a service element to it for your premium guests. You've also got trained butlers now that'll be serving guests at the Sandton Towers.
Quite right. We have a club floor, which is the top 2 floors of the property. All of the staff that are up there have been professionally trained as butlers, and that comes as part of that package. So there's separate lounges up there where you can enjoy drinks in the afternoon or breakfast in the morning. And as I say, you get butler service with, I think we put about 25 of our staff through that training. So it was really intense just before we reopened, trained by guys that have been doing butler service all over the world. So we're very happy with how that's come out. And the guest feedback so far from those interactions have been very positive. So good training for the guys. They've enjoyed the process, and we're very happy with the outcome of that.
It's a very interesting service to offer, because I know it's something that's fairly well received, I think, around the world. It's something that a lot of the top hotels in the world do offer, something I haven't seen as much in South Africa. So clearly there was a bit of a demand for this. There
was, and you pay a little bit of a premium on the rate to go up there, but it's the whole experience. So it basically runs as a little hotel within the hotel. So it's got its own reception area, its own kitchen. Everything that you ask for is facilitated up there. So there is a demand for that. The properties here in Sandton are predominantly corporate properties. So because of our location and being close to all of the head offices, etc., in the area, we do have a leisure area. But you find that generally people that are operating at that kind of level like finer touches and the attention to detail that having a butler service gives. And as I say, been very well received by our guests.
Well, I'll pick up on that just after the break. I'm in conversation with Rob Jasper. He's the general manager of the Sandton Sun and Towers. We're talking about the refurbishment of the towers, but we're going to be picking up on that right after this.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So just before the break, I started my conversation with Robert Jasper. He's the general manager of the Sandton Sun and Towers, and we were picking up on a new service that the hotel has introduced, which includes butlers. And Robert, before we wrap this part of the conversation up, what are they meant to do? Because often I've encountered the service and I'm never quite sure exactly how much or how little I'm expecting this butler to do. Because I know I've had people asking if they would like me for them to run a bath, unpack my suitcase. How far or how much do butlers generally do?
It depends on the guest preference. So yes, they would do all of those things, specifically the packing and unpacking of suitcases, any sort of valet work that needs to be done, whether it be laundry, etc., even to the point of making sure that certain meals are required at whatever time that may be. We run a 24-hour service, so whatever time you'd like a meal, we would have it available for you. And if you would like something specific that maybe isn't on the menu, but to suit your taste. So they're there basically to make your stay a lot more pleasant and stress-free. One of the things that we try and ensure is that the service is not intrusive. So the butler's there, but he's there on your request. So he's not in your face, but he's there if you need anything whatsoever, that person is able to do that. Could be anything from making a reservation in a restaurant, to arranging a transfer somewhere, to mending some clothes, to going shopping for you, whatever it may be.
Unbelievable. Well, that's a nice new feature to see. A lot of this is driven by guest feedback, and it'd be interesting to find out how much that guest feedback influenced the refurbishment of the 300 odd rooms that you have at the hotel.
So, yes, we run an extensive program where we get feedback continually, and hotels like this continually need to be refreshed. We track what the guests are saying. In this case, the hotel was closed for a couple of years as well. And the last time that this hotel had a major refurbishment was probably around about the World Cup. So The Soccer World Cup. So 2010. It was due for it. And to say, we've tried to make it as contemporary and modern as we possibly could, but still keeping the feel of the hotel. And as I say, guest feedback has been outstanding with it so far. So we're very pleased.
I mean, there's always that danger because of the proximity that you have to the convention center that you're going to say, well, you know what, we're going to get guests anyway, because where are you going to stay if you need to go to the convention center? And I suppose this is not always a necessity to upgrade unless it's really needed.
With the part of the market that we trade in, it is required. I should have mentioned that the hotel leads onto the convention center. So there's a skywalk that will take you from the Sandton Sun and the Sandton City shopping mall right the way through to the convention center without leaving the building. We've got a lot of properties in Sandton, and generally what happens if there's a big event or a big conference, I'll use the G20 as an example that's coming up later in the year, we're already taking bookings for that. So there'll be an element that would go into a 3 or 4 star property, but there is still a demand for 5-star rooms in Sandton. There aren't a lot of hotels at the moment. Some of the other hotels that closed for COVID haven't reopened yet, but there is a demand for that sort of top end of the market. And we feed into that, and we're cognizant that you've still got to deliver the product. You can't just work on the fact that you're close to the convention center and people are just going to come and book in. Specifically with booking trends these days, because a lot of people, when they're coming to events and major things, don't book direct through the organizer of the event. They'll use an OTA, for example. So they've got to be given the options of where they would like to stay. So obviously you've got to have the product that would suit their needs.
Certainly. Where are you seeing most of your guests coming from? Is it sort of a mixture of local, international, Pan-African, or purely international?
So 46% of our guests, roughly 46%, come from South Africa. They're local. Another 25% come from Africa, so the rest of the African continent. And then the balance would come from all over the rest of the world.
Okay. And have you seen the hotel occupations pick up again? I know at one point, just coming out of COVID and sort of the following months or years after that, there was a bit of a lag in terms of occupation in Sandton. Has that sort of fully recovered?
Yes, it has to an extent. The corporate travel that we used to know has not returned. I don't think it ever will, to be honest. I think that people use what the Teams and Zoom meetings to do a lot of the travel that they used to do. But that's been replaced by a combination of some leisure. There is a lot of, it's nice to see the international leisure stuff coming back into the country. Here in Sandton, we've been slightly affected because of the direct flights now into Cape Town, and the guys can fly from Cape Town straight up into the Kruger and up into the game lodges. So some of that market has moved for us. So we are sort of trading to the levels we were sort of pre-COVID. Not all of our properties, though, and not all of the properties around Sandton. There's obviously been some hotel development over the last couple of years in Sandton as well. So there's a lot more players in the market.
This refreshed look and feel that you've got now for this hotel, does this also provide a bit of an idea of what the direction is for Southern Sun and what the hospitality brand is looking to do?
Absolutely. We've refurbished quite a few of our hotels. A little further down Maud Street, we have the Southern Sun Sandton, which has also been completely refurbished. And that is a really great property. And we've also, in the process, done about half of it of the Southern Sun in Rosebank. So we are continually upgrading our properties. the way that the things are at the moment, we are not looking at we're building any new properties, but you've got to continually keep upgrading and refurbishing the properties that you do have. So like the Sandton Towers, the other two hotels have been done as well, and they've all got a similar feel. So, the design, the interior designs pretty much on par with each other, except there's obviously just different levels and different levels of luxury that goes into whatever the star grading of the hotel is.
I mean, it also clearly indicates some sort of confidence in the future of hospitality, of Sandton. I mean, you wouldn't be spending this kind of money if you thought things weren't going to be going in the right direction.
Absolutely. We mentioned the convention center, which last year was a great year for the convention center, and this year looks to be the same. A lot of the big stuff that was moving around and sort of moved away during the COVID years has started to come back. A lot of the big corporates are doing repeat conferences with some big events. We hosted the last BRICS summit here in Sandton, so that was also very good. We're very confident and positive about the businesses coming in. There's a lot of the big sporting teams are still coming back to stay with us all the time. So we're very happy and confident with the way things are going.
Are you also, as a very strong local player, seeing the pressure coming in from big international brands entering the market, or is that still quite slow?
I think that there may be some more coming in, but I think you've seen quite a bit of it in Cape Town, not so much here in Sandton, but you will see that in the rest of Africa. We've got 90 odd hotels, most of which are in Southern Africa. So we're the biggest in the South African market, but there is some of the internationals, but as I say, a little bit more in Cape Town, but you'll find it more in Africa than you would in the Southern Africa area.
Now, looking ahead, are you looking to further build on this refurb in terms of the hotel? I mean, are there plans to sort of bring in a high tea, refurbish the menus, sort of do anything else? I don't know, pillow menus, anything like that?
We have all of those in place already, and we're constantly working on our menus. We update them due to customer feedback and what the sales has been on a monthly basis. We're about to do a soft refurbishment to the Sandton Sun Hotel. So we'll be replacing all of the furniture and carpets and new reception desk in the lobby, as well as on what we call the 6th floor, which is the area that leads into the Sandton City Mall, as well as refurbishing and upgrading all of our conference venues in the hotel. And then in the not too distant future, we'll look at doing a refurbishment of the rest of the Sandton Sun. And just next door to the Sandton Convention Centre is the Garden Court, which is also part of our group. There's 444 bedrooms in there, and we are in the process of doing mock-ups for a full refurbishment of that property as well. So as you can see, we are continually refurbishing our products to ensure that we're giving the customers what they're looking for and that we stay relevant to the market.
Well, certainly exciting times ahead, and I suppose what we come to expect from hotels that play in the grading that you play in. Rob Jasper, General Manager of Sandton Sun and Towers. More on the Sandton Sun and Towers refurbishments will be up on our website as well. And Rob, I'm sure I don't know what people say, but I wish you many happy sleep hours for your guests, if that's right. And it's been good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, and it's been great to speak to you. Thank you, Alex.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
And as we move into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner. And if there's something you heard on the show this week, didn't get all the details, couldn't remember what it was, well, make sure to hop onto the Sandton Times website at sandtontimes.co.za and click on the show notes for this week, and we'll pop up all those details up on there. And I know a lot of people like to listen and read at the same time, so whilst you're listening to the show and you might want to do some reading, you can do that either now or at a later stage. It'll be up there in perpetuity for you to make use of. Also, make sure to check out the social media accounts at Sandton Times for photos, videos, and any additional media you want to add to some of the discussions, as well as the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton, which is 084 726 3866, 084 726 3866, and you can send through your voice notes, videos, messages, all of that. Save it to your phone and make use of that exclusive line. We get to our entertainment commentator, Tat Wolfen, as we always do this time of the hour. And Tat, normally we talk about such classy things, but I believe you've been having some real trash to work through.
Well, it's quite interesting that week we were talking about faith-based cinema. cinema that returns to traditional values, family values, etc. So I thought, why don't we do a complete 180-degree turn? I watched a two-part documentary series or mini-series, whatever you want to call them, on Netflix the other day, called, with actually quite a clever title, Jerry Springer Fights Camera Action.
I've seen that as well. My goodness.
I mean, look, I've never thought highly of that show or of the now late Mr. Springer, but this gives you even more background detail. That show always celebrated what is most base about the human animal.
Yeah.
The greed, the infidelity, what a show.
Maybe for some of the listeners listening who might not be familiar with it, because I remember it used to show sort of in the 90s, and it was quite popular up until I think like sort of the 2000 odds. But essentially it was this host, Jerry Springer. He used to be a mayor, I think it was of Cincinnati or one of these U.S. cities. He suddenly became a talk show host, and he ended up hosting people who essentially were airing their dirty laundry or sort of using the platform as a chance to sort of, I don't know, go through some sort of treatment or psychology. And the stuff used to get, I mean, the stories used to get really sensational to the point that you almost thought they were making the stuff up.
Sorry, just to fill in the gap there, he was mayor and then he was quite a popular newsreader, actually.
Oh, you're right, yes.
On TV. And then they gave him simultaneously this talk show, but it was like the other talk shows, like all the airtime talk shows, which was pretty average and nothing that sort of stood out. And I'm not trying to suggest that the show that came, well, it did stand out, but let's say for the wrong reasons. And then what happened, actually the format for the Jerry Springer show, as it's now remembered and what gained it notoriety, the format was actually created by his executive producer. Okay, so he didn't come up with the idea, but the executive producer, even as he says in this documentary, he says he'd be quite happy to capture someone being killed on camera if it's going to mean ratings.
Crazy.
His only yardstick was ratings. If it's going to attract viewers, then it's good TV. So that those are the values of his executive producer. Okay, and then as you say, the show was such that they'd have these chairs in front of the audience, and they'd say they'd bring out some guy and then say to him, your wife has something to say to you, and then they'd bring the wife out, and then the wife would always be some astonishing declaration. She'd tell him, for example, that she used to be a man, which is not the kind of stuff that you declare on nationwide and, in fact, international TV. Those are not the kinds of announcements you make. Or your wife is having an affair, and then, of course, to compound that, they would bring her boyfriend onto the show as well.
Yeah.
They would always pick for the show people who were sort of, let's say, not mentally completely stable. Okay, they would specifically find those kinds of people, and also you're not going to phone the show and say that you want to be on the show if you were a regular private person. So already the people that are going to phone in are going to be maybe not entirely mentally healthy.
Well, this is what I thought was so interesting about this show, or about this documentary, was that it actually really took you behind the curtains of the show. Because when you used to watch it, there was always these skepticisms or doubts that some of the stuff just seemed a little bit so far-fetched that this could certainly not be true, or not have had some sort of hand in instigating some of the stuff. But when you start watching this, you can see how produced and how inflamed these situations became, because the producers and the people putting the show together were in some instances sort of driving these people to the edge. Like you said, you're bringing in the people who perpetrated some of these things, or kind of winding up the guests in advance to say, like, how could you allow this to happen to you, and you should really do something about it. And I mean, also then the audience, which was almost like a Roman gladiatorial experience, would chant and sing and encourage and boo. And I mean, it was if you look at it now,
No,
I mean,
there's certainly,
it's
when you talk about the audience, it certainly was like this crowd mentality, baying for blood, and what I also didn't know, well, they would also sometimes switch the story. So you thought that you were going to go out there, for example, they would say, your wife has something to tell you, whatever, but they would underplay it to get the people to turn up, right? And also the people would get this fantastic treatment. They'd get flown out to the studio from another city, and then they'd get picked up at the airport in a limousine. So they'd be thinking, oh, this is also fantastic, But then they would introduce elements whilst these people were up on that stage that they were not aware of. So, for example, they'd say, your wife is not really happy with the way your marriage is going. So, that sounds okay. That could be all right. You know what I mean? But then only when that person is in front of the glare of the lights and the TV cameras would he find out that the wife had actually been a man and is now having an affair with two other men, one of whom is a serial killer.
It was that ridiculous, yeah. Or she was,
Yes,
she was
they would-
considering dating the neighbor's cats, or it was just getting completely. I mean, almost like I say, almost fictional.
Yeah. They had a talent for finding these people. It was in such poor taste, and I don't want to talk about this specific event in case people are going to now want to go and watch this series called Jerry Springer Fights Camera Action, which is on Netflix. But there was one particular thing that happened as a result of that show, and I thought to myself, well, after this, surely the show couldn't continue, but it did. Astonishingly, it did, and something that really got my goat, something that really made me angry was the way that the people, because they have some interviews with Jerry Springer while he was still alive, obviously, but they also have more recent interviews now with people who had been producers and the executive producer of the show. So they have these more recent interviews, and they all just distance themselves from the harm that the show caused to people's lives, apart from the fact that it actually lowered the level of television and has given birth to other so-called reality shows such as the Kardashians and Temptation Island, stuff like that, which is, I mean, that stuff it really appeals to the basest side of human nature. And to come back to the Jerry Springer show, the Jerry Springer show gave birth to that, to that culture that says, it's okay. You can be as profane and disgusting and low rent as you want to. And as long as it gets you viewers and these days, what you'd call likes or following or whatever, then somehow it's acceptable. And in fact, you could say the Jerry Springer show also in some way gave permission to this whole social media culture where people will do the most disgusting things, but hey, look, now my likes have gone up and my following's gone up. Oh, okay, so are you telling me that justifies it?
Well, certainly one of the less admirable times in TV history, but like you said, also maybe has led to some of the stuff we see in 2025. If you remember the Jerry Springer show, if it's something that you might have watched once, twice, or thrice, well, you might want to catch up on this. It's Jerry Springer Fights Camera Action. It's on Netflix, and Tat Wolfen. Hopefully, we'll be chatting about something a little bit more encouraging in the coming weeks.
Cool. I look forward to next week's show, and until then, keep it classy.
Or as Jerry Springer used to say, take care of yourself and each other.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So if you had a little bit too much to eat this past weekend, then this next chat might resonate with you. This year's 40 Under 40 Global Award for Hospitality shines a well-deserved spotlight on Darren Meltz, the event director for Secret Eats in South Africa, and recognized for his exceptional leadership and innovation in curating unforgettable dining experiences. Darren has emerged as a triple title achiever. He's earned the accolades at the 40 Under 40 in South Africa, then the 40 Under 40 in Africa, and now the prestigious 40 Under 40 Global achievement. The 40 Under 40 Global Awards, hosted by Exodus Communications under the leadership of CEO and Events Director Richard Abbey Jr., celebrates 40 dynamic leaders under the age of 40 who are shaping the world through extraordinary personal and professional accomplishments. From breakthrough projects to undeniable impact and a return on investment, these awards aim to inspire a new generation to pursue excellence early and boldly. And Darren joins me on the line now. Welcome to the Sandton Times Hour, Darren.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Well, listen, first off, congratulations on your recognition. And Darren, what does it mean being named a 40 Under 40 global winner in hospitality, both personally and professionally?
Well, I think it's all still settling and sinking in at the moment. But to be honest, the recognition just means that Secret Eats, as well as myself, are being noticed and taken note of on a global stage. So hopefully leading to a lot more opportunities across borders. So not limiting us to the African continent any longer.
Now, you've won this event thrice, so it's a bit of a trifecta, both in South Africa, across the continent, and obviously on the global level. What has this award journey been like for you? And how has each stage sort of impacted what you do at Secret Eats?
Well, to be honest, the first South African awards seemed like a nice platform for recognition locally, trying to expand our footprint. And then after winning that award and then knowing that we then progressed to the continental and then possibly the global level, things just started to feel a lot bigger, also quite overwhelming. As we progressed, it's also allowed me to network and connect with a bunch of people that I never thought that I would be in the same room as. There were professionals from all over the world, many different sectors, many industries. But just to be there, to meet them and to also become personal as well as industry friends with these people, I think that has been one of the biggest takeaways from the awards journey for me.
Well, I mean, for those people who don't know Secret Eats, I mean, it's become synonymous with exclusive dining. I mean, you sign up for one of these events that are hosted almost every month, and then you get told on the day where this dinner is taking place. So you kind of have a general idea of where you might be going, or there's a bit of a hint of a theme, but it's actually only once the day arrives that you get to know where it is. It's very exclusive, very intimate. It only happens, as I say, over 1 or 2 days. Darren, what inspired you to run these events, and how have they evolved over time?
Well, Secret Eats started as a very small get-together just for a limited group of friends, actually in a beach house in Langebaan. And there just seemed to be such an appetite and interest for something interesting and different in a dining experience. And more people wanted to join. And then it slowly grew into more of a business idea and evolved in the Cape. And then we moved it to Johannesburg, where things really took off. I think that there's a bit of a hunger, quote unquote, in Johannesburg for something that is new and fresh and different in terms of dining. People here are really used to just going to a typical restaurant for a meal and then leaving, and then that's that. A curated, immersive dining experience was something that there was a real appetite for here. And it just seems to have grown from there. And that's pretty much the story of how things evolve.
Now, you've done quite a few of these in many different and interesting locations. What's been the most memorable Secret Eats? And what do you think made it stand out?
So that's difficult. Over the last 12 or so years, we have done many different ones. I remember doing one for Valentine's Day, which was red and white themed. It was more like a curated picnic, but it was on top of a building in Doornfontein in Joburg, which was really quite special. You had these epic city backdrops from the top of the building. We also hosted a very interesting one in an old abandoned butchery towards Soweto. So that was a partnership with Bombay Sapphire back then. So that was quite some time ago. We've had some celebrity chefs like Ben Ungerman from MasterChef Australia, where we had a really curated of the dinner. I think it's really been the partnerships more so than the actual venues that have been really special. We do a lot of work with HTA Culinary School. So we have some students, and mostly first year back of house and front of house students, that really contribute to making the evening incredibly special, because guests don't even realize that their dinner is being prepared by students. So I think it's more than just the venue. It's the curation of the experience and everyone involved that really makes Secret Eats something special.
Well, hospitality can be a very tough industry, as you know, and I think the event space can even be even more brutal. What's been your secret to kind of always coming up and innovating and staying ahead of the curve when it comes to these experiences?
Well, I think it comes down to almost what our guests are as well, is it's being eternally curious. I've become attuned to always looking out for something interesting and different and looking for the opportunity of how we can evolve that. But thank goodness we're blessed to have been going for so long that these opportunities tend to find us. And then it's then my job and a responsibility to mold it into something that is new and vibrant for like a once-off dream evening.
Well, Darren, the heat is on, or the pressure's on now to make things happen as you walk away with this award. So I have to ask you, what's next for Darren Meltz and Secret Eats?
Well, I don't want to say too much, but we have a very exciting concept that is going to be rolling out within the next month in Johannesburg. So it's something entertainment and food-based. Can't really say too much because all the details are not ironed out at the moment. But if people really keep a lookout on our social media and on all our platforms, then that will come to light quite soon. But also some talks and some opportunities on the global stage. We're looking at doing something perhaps in the Emirates or internationally. So there's a lot in the works, and hopefully that's all going to be revealed pretty soon.
Well, it sounds very exciting. And if this whets your appetite, we're going to put all the Secret Eats details up on the website if you want to partake in one of the gatherings or just get an idea of what to expect. And in terms of what to expect of what might be coming, then go check that out. And Darren Meltz, congratulations once again on your recognition. And thanks for joining us on the Sandton Times Hour.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alex.
All right, with that, it's all we have time for this week on the Sandton Times Hour. And as always, if you want to get in touch, you can email edit@sandtontimes.co.za, connect on social media @Sandton Times, hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and use the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton, that's 084 726 3866 for your voice notes, text messages, and whatever other media you've got. It's always good to hear from you. And don't forget that you can also sign up to the Sandton Times Hours podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and all other leading digital audio platforms. Thank you to all my guests who made the time to be on the show this week, and thank you to the team who pulls this together no matter what every single week, and it's hugely appreciated. And of course, thank you to you for listening, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.